Okay, so this is a quick tutorial on how to get Rust assets out of Blender using Rust Asset Exporter, which is available via my Patreon. Um, it was previously done using Asset Studio, but there's a few quirks of using that, and it's not the most intuitive to get models and find the correct models, more importantly. So this is a program I've been working on to make that process easier and more intuitive for artists and creators to explore through files, look for new things, and export models into programs like Blender for arts or thumbnails or whatever people fancy. And to get started, you'll need to load Rust game files, more specifically the bundles. Now you can load folder, but most of the time I'd recommend just click load file, go to where Rust is located, wherever it's installed. For me, it's under Steam Apps Common Rust. Go to the bundles folder and you'll see another file there called bundles. This is the manifest, and it contains the locations of all the bundles that Rust uses. So if I load this up, you'll see here all the bundles it finds. Now you can just click load and it will load them all, but it will take a while, similar to loading into a Rust server or loading Rust up in general. There's a lot of files within Rust. It will take a few minutes to import. If you're happy with that, you can go ahead, but I would recommend cutting down that list as best you can. So first of all, maps you're not going to need. This will contain stuff for Happis and other inbuilt maps rather than generated maps like you might expect. So I'd exclude that to start. Audio as well. Rust Asset Exporter in its current version does not export audio, so that's always worth disabling. And both the preload files you don't need either, because they're items as they would be within your inventory rather than the 3D models for those items, which leaves you with these bundles. Now, content contains pretty much all the models and materials and pretty much everything that you'd want to export is within content.bundle. What monuments contains is positions of all of those objects, instances of all of those objects. So if you want to export monuments, you'll want content bundle enabled. And all of these, their textures depend on all the different texture bundles. So if you want to export with textures, you'll need minimum content bundle and textures bundle. If you wanted to export monuments as well, also load the monuments bundle, but I wouldn't load it unless you need it. So I'm going to disable that for now and just go content bundle. And I know that textures work. I'm not going to use them for the sake of this quick tutorial on how to get models out. Just going to load content.bundle and just trust me, it does export textures. But this should load a bit quicker, but I'm still going to pause it and see you on the other side. Okay, and as you can see, 13,148 prefabs loaded from one bundle. And this is now populated. So if I look here, this is our assets folder and these sorts of subdirectories. So not every prefab you find is going to be for 3D models. If I'm going to go to workshop, for example, you'll see some things here like the material tabs and colors and various things. There's not going to be a 3D model associated with this. If I click 3D model, I'm not going to find one. So it's important to look in the right location for where models are kept, the majority of which will be just under assets and prefabs. As you can see here, most things you're going to find are going to be here. All your clothes, weapon mods, all your attachments, all the weapons themselves, vehicle parts, tools, plants, etc. So most things are going to be here. You might find a few things under bundled prefabs, and then there's a couple outliers for a few things in just assets content. But primarily, you're going to be searching within prefabs. Another one I will mention, because people often try to find, is Rust AI agents, is where you'll find the animals for stuff. And yeah, first of all, this is the text view. So this is going to give you a rough idea of what's within it. It might be hard to read sometimes, but if you're not finding models, you can see if any models are actually referenced here. So if I were to go onto here and click on chicken.prefab, I can see there's a few things within this hierarchy. And if I go to 3D preview, see that that is in fact the chicken model. Now, most of the things you're going to want are going to be characters, weapons, clothes, etc. So if I to go into weapons, you can see AK-47 here. You'll often see different variations of files. So entity is going to be the main version of whatever model you're finding. And this will be reasonable quality, but not the best. The best version will be in the view model because that will be the closest camera, but it will come with an armature and arms. If I touch a skeleton, you can see all the bones. And then world model is what will get tossed on the floor if you were to drop it from inventory, and will often be a low quality model. The entity is generally pretty good to export. And as you can see, here's the default AK. Now also under AK will be the other variations, so medieval version here. They will equally have the view model and world models associated with them. Jungle version, the new one, or newest time of this video. Ice and the diver. But as we said before, there'll be things in here that aren't actually 3D models. So if I were to go under effects, you'll see these are for muzzle flashes. There are no models associated with it, and it will just jump back to text view. So if you're just finding that it's jumping back to text view, then you'll know there's nothing to preview there. But finding models should be pretty intuitive, and you'll really get the hang of it the more time you spend with it. And exporting things is as easy as you might expect. So if I were to go into mini crossbow, for example, and view this, see this is the mini crossbow model. And if I wanted to export this, it's as easy as either clicking export selected or just right clicking, export game object, choosing your output folder, load it, and it will export. So now if I were to jump to where I've just exported that, it will keep the folder structure as it was within the Rust game file. So here it's on assets, prefabs, weapons, mini crossbow's entity, and you can see it here. The GLB file is the one you actually want, and if you had the texture bundles loaded, you'd have textures here as well. Now if I were to load this up, this is another advantage of having GLTF export. You can see we have crossbow model. Now, that pretty much covers exporting standard models. It's as easy as just trying to find the ones you want, looking for them, and clicking export. And if you wanted to load those into Blender, file, import, GLTF/GLB, go to where you've just exported, tutorial, assets, prefabs, weapons, and grab your file. Now, I would recommend turning off back images, but you don't have to. You will need to turn off guess original bind pose. This will mess up the skinning of the model. So have that off. And I would also recommend switching from Blender and switching to either Temperance or Fortune. I tend to just go with Temperance. And this will just make the bones better aligned to how the skeleton should actually be. And if I click import, see, and hide the armature, we now have the mini crossbow model within Blender and all the arrows and bits and bobs. And I'm auto stripping off all the different log levels, as games use different quality models depending on the distance from the camera. Rust Asset Exporter will skip the lower quality models and just give you the high quality model, as you can see there. So easy enough to do. Now, if you want to get a character, you might be tempted to go into player, but as you can see, these aren't exportable. These will be the player skeletons amongst various things. So instead, when you actually want to get players, you go under clothes, go into skin, you'll find within here player model head, skeleton, all within here, as well as the sash, torsos, and all the pieces you'll need to make a character, as well as their legs, etc., etc. But as you might have thought, you want a full character. Now you could export these all manually and then just assign them all in Blender, but there is a tool within Rust Asset Exporter to make this whole job a lot easier, and that is merge export. So what I can do is I can either control click all the parts of the model I want. So I've got legs, hands, being careful to select the male versions, so I'm not mixing genders here. Feet, hands, do the sash and torso, and if I right click I can add them all to the merge list. As you can see, I've got add and remove buttons here, so I can also add those. Now to preview what you've got so far, there is a preview button, and this will preview all the models you've selected. As you can see, I've forgotten a head model. I'm just gonna get one of those, add that to my list. You can see up here, and if I preview that now, you see I have a full naked player model with the pants on to keep it PG. But then there's other stuff you might like. You might want, for example, your character to actually have eyebrows, or a beard, or some hair. Preview. Just going to merge all those together, and now you can see got a more complete character model. But I'm going to remove the hair for now, and I'm going to remove sash, so you can see what it looks like now. And I'm going to kit him out a bit, and since the jungle update was just out, I'm going to add the Cocoa Night Armor. So add the gloves, add the head, add the legs, and add the torso. You can see they're all now added to the list. Preview merged. And as you can see, I've now got a complete, ready to go character model that I can export. So if you want to explore that, you use the right hand menu. You can just merge export on the left, but I'd recommend using from here so you can rename it, etc. So I'm just going to call this Cocoa Night. Export merged. Go into my tutorial folder. Export 10 objects. As you can see, that's exported. If I try to load that into Blender, it's not going to have the same folder structure that you had exporting single objects. It's just going to export directly, as these aren't game files. These are a combination of. Now if I import that, as you can see, all of those models have been merged, and you have a single unified skeleton for all the different objects you've merged. Right. Turn on the skeleton in front. As you can see, everything is properly parented and weighted just as you'd expect, and ready to be used, posed in whatever manner you fancy. Now, of course, if you're struggling to find things, there is a search function to say I'm missing some shoes and I didn't know where the foot wraps were. Unfortunately, they are not always going to have the same names as they do in game, but you can have a search about. So if I were to search for what they call probably burlap, for example, what I'm going to do is going to reduce my list on the left to everything containing burlap, and you can see that is quite a lot of stuff. Again, there's a lot of things in bundled, but underclothes, as we knew it probably would be. See, shoes.burlap. Go, and we want the prefab, add to merge list, and remove the feet because it will replace the feet. Remove those, preview. Take a little moment to merge them all together. Now see, it's got some burlap shoes. So in general, it should be pretty easy to find stuff, but search is always there if you need it. Equally, if you want to search for a category, like type clothes and then slash, it will close everything else and just open the clothes folder. These are all the clothes. If I grab one of them, you can see most things you want from Rust are going to be pretty easy to find. Now, there is an animation button up there that is in the works, but is not available as of yet, but will be hopefully working in a future version. For now, this should be covering most of the aspects of this to get you started. And like I said at the start, if you want to get hold of it, it is on my Patreon. First versions will be under the cheap tier, later versions will be under the more expensive tier, but just getting models out, the first version will do. If you want the features from later updates, then obviously the more expensive one will be the one to go for. But I hope that helps, clears everything up. If you do need any help, you can message the chat on Patreon and I'll try help out, answer questions, fix bugs, and maybe even add features if anyone has any good ideas of where they'd want this program to go.